Alright, so let's start talking about the design of the two phones, and the Note 9 Pro definitely feels more premium than the Realme 6 thanks to the fact that you get glass sandwich body on the Note 9 Pro compared to the plastic body on the Realme 6. Plus you get Corning Gorilla Glass 5 protection on the front and the back. On the Realme 6 you get Corning Gorilla Glass 3 on the front. Now, glass is glass and glass is slippery, and therefore the Note 9 Pro is definitely slippery in regular usage compared to the Realme 6 for sure. Plus the Realme 6 is slimmer and lighter thanks to the use of plastic compared to the Redmi Note 9 Pro. Therefore, using it in daily usage with one hand is far more easier compared to the Redmi Note 9 Pro, which feels like a hulking behemoth for sure. Now, when you're looking at the other design parameters of both the phones, you get a Type-C port at the bottom, which are flanked on either sides by a 3.5mm headphone jack and a speaker grill. Plus, you also get a proper triple slot for 2 SIM cards and a micro SD card as well. But when you're talking about the design of both the phones, there are functional improvements on the Redmi Note 9 Pro. One of the things that is available on the Redmi Note 9 Pro and not available on the Realme 6 is a proper notification LED. Plus, you also do not get an infrared sensor on the Realme 6, which you do get on the Redmi Note 9 Pro. So when you're talking about the design, the in-hand field, while it is better on the Realme 6, the functional improvements on the Redmi Note 9 Pro actually make it better when it comes to design. Plus, of course, you get a premium finish and the glass body as well. Like I mentioned, I feel that the phone is definitely chunky, but you also get a bigger 5000 mAh battery inside, which is actually pretty great and which I will come to later in the video for sure. Also, one of the more important things when you talk about the design is the fact that the Redmi Note 10 Pro comes with P2i nano coating, which is great because it protects it against spills and splashes compared to the Realme 6. So overall, when it comes to design, I think that the Redmi Note 9 Pro is better than the Realme 6. Point Redmi. Alright, so when you talk about the displays on both the phones, there is no doubt in my mind that the Realme 6 definitely gets a major boost and advantage because of the fact that it comes with a 90Hz refresh rate panel compared to the 60Hz panel on the Redmi Note 9 Pro. But when you talk about the brightness of the displays, then the Redmi Note 9 Pro is definitely better than the Realme 6, plus the colors are really nice on the Redmi Note 9 Pro compared to the Realme 6. However, during my usage, I noticed a couple of interesting things. Firstly, that the auto brightness is pretty aggressive on the Realme 6, which means that it tends to make it lower brightness than it is generally required. Plus, apart from that, the Realme 6 has a punch hole at the top right corner, whereas the punch hole on the Redmi Note 9 Pro is at the center. Now, also, more importantly, the punch hole on the Redmi Note 9 Pro is slightly too low in my opinion. So what happens because of that is that the punch hole camera cuts through the top portion of many UI layers of different apps, and that doesn't look good in regular usage. Now both the phones do come with wideband L1 support for HD playback, but both the phones don't offer HD playback on Netflix when I tested it out. Also, one very interesting thing that I noticed while playing back HDR videos on YouTube is that the Note 9 Pro tends to have washed out colors compared to the Realme 6. It's just very weird. It changes setting entirely when on the Note 9 Pro. I think Xiaomi should fix that with an update. But apart from that, when you're watching regular video content on both the phones, both the phones are almost identical. I couldn't see any difference whatsoever. So overall, when you talk about the display on both the phones, I think that the Realme 6 wins primarily because you get the 90Hz refresh rate. I absolutely love high refresh rate panels, so that's great on the Realme 6. So now talking about software, I'm going to keep it very, very short. The Realme 6 and the Redmi Note 10 Pro both run on Android 10, which is great. Plus, they both have their custom skins on top of it. We all know by now the Redmi has MIUI, whereas Realme has Realme UI now. Now, I have a detailed video, talking about the benefits of Realme UI. You can go check that out in the link that pops up right now. But in my opinion, when you're talking about design, layout, and UI elements and all of that put together, plus the fact that you get an app drawer, I think that the Realme UI definitely wins in terms of design when compared to MIUI. MIUI is nice too, but MIUI's advantage is definitely the fact that it has more features crammed in. Plus, when I was using both these phones, I didn't encounter too many ads, which is very interesting because both the phones were supposed to be coming with ads for sure, but that's not happening on both these phones, so that's good. Overall though, I mean, I would go with Realme UI, but your mileage could vary, so software is very personal preference based thing. So actually you should use the phone to figure out which one works in your favor. If you've always been using a Redmi phone, then I think that you might like MIUI better than Realme UI. But if you are, if you're looking at a slightly more stock-like experience, I think the Realme UI is, the UI for you. So when you talk about the cameras on both the phones, we have a detailed camera comparison on both these phones. The link should pop up right now. But to summarize the findings of that camera comparison, the Redmi Note 9 Pro comes up as the winner compared to the Realme 6 for sure. And apart from that, the Redmi Note 9 Pro, when you're talking about the pictures, in most scenarios, it is better than the Realme 6. Plus, the extra cameras, the secondary and the tertiary cameras that are present, like for example, the macro camera or the wide angle camera, all of those are better on the Redmi Note 9 Pro. So overall, if you want a phone just for better camera performance, I would suggest that you pick the Redmi Note 9 Pro over the Realme 6 for sure. And if you want a detailed comparison of the cameras on the Redmi Note 9 Pro against the Realme 6, please don't forget to go and check out that camera comparison that popped up just now. Now, while cameras are the strong suit of Redmi Note 9 Pro, the Realme 6 is definitely better if you are a gamer. Now, if you're playing graphics intensive games like PUBG or Call of Duty, then the Realme 6 definitely performs better than the Redmi Note 9 Pro. Plus, it has higher, graphics settings available for you. However, what I noticed during my testing is that the Realme 6 definitely gets hotter after 30 minutes compared to the Redmi Note 9 Pro for sure, where the thermal management is definitely better. And the frame drops a little more on the Realme 6 compared to the Redmi Note 9 Pro. Having said that, you can just drop the resolution and get better frames out of the Realme 6. So for gaming, if you want to choose a phone, then the Realme 6 is the phone for you. But when it comes to daily performance, really you can't tell the difference between the two. Both are almost very similar in daily performance and daily usage when you're using it just for Twitter or just for Instagram and Facebook. So nothing to separate the two. Now if you're wondering about the benchmark scores between the two phones, those should flash up on your screen right now. You can pause to check out the differences, but of course you will notice that in GPU performance that the Realme 6 is better than the Redmi Note 9 Pro. That's generally the benchmark score that we got. And in CPU performance, the Redmi Note 9 Pro trumps the Realme 6. Now in daily performance, there is literally nothing telling the two apart. Both are equally fast, equally responsive. But the one thing that makes a whole world of difference is the fact that the Realme 6 comes with a 90Hz display. So it feels smoother apart from the fact that it is faster, and it's pretty responsive as well compared to the Redmi Note 9 Pro. So overall, when you look at gaming or when you look at overall performance, I think that the Realme 6 would serve you slightly better than the Redmi Note 9 Pro. Now, like I mentioned, both the Redmi Note 9 Pro and the Realme 6 come with a single mono speaker at the bottom. So I compared the sound on both the phones, and the tuning is completely different. So when you're talking about the Realme 6, you get more emphasis on the bass, whereas on the Redmi Note 9 Pro, it is very mid forward, which means that when you're watching videos and if there is someone talking, then the Redmi Note 9 Pro sounds better. And if you're watching music videos, then the Realme 6 definitely sounds better. And when you talk about the loudness of these mono speakers, both are equally average, not that great. Now, when you're talking about audio performance of the headphone jack, which is something that a lot of people will care about, and despite the fact that you get direct audio on the Realme 6, I still feel that the Redmi Note 9 Pro sounds cleaner, richer, and far better with a lot of headphones and earphones that I tested on the Redmi Note 9 Pro. Now, when you're talking about battery performance, we have to look at two key aspects of battery performance, which is battery life and battery charging speeds. And when it comes to charging speeds, the Realme 6 is better, which charges in around 57-58 minutes from 0 to 100 in our charging test, which takes around 2 hours on the Redmi Note 9 Pro. So definitely when it comes to charging speeds, VOOC charging on the Realme 6 is better than the 18-watt charging that you get on the Redmi Note 9 Pro. Now, when you're talking about battery performance, of course, this has a larger 5020 mAh battery, which is 4300 mAh on the Realme 6. So definitely the battery life is better on the Redmi Note 9 Pro. I got around 9 hours of screen on time on moderate usage, which is around 6.5 to 7 hours on the Realme 6 with 90Hz refresh rate on. Now, when you're talking about 60Hz refresh rate on the Realme 6, it should definitely be better. So when you're looking at overall battery performance, you can stretch to around 2 days of battery life easily on the Redmi Note 9 Pro. Around a day and a little more than a day on the Realme 6 with 90Hz on, and maybe a day and a half on the Realme 6 with 60Hz on. So overall, when it comes to battery performance, I still think that the Realme 6 is better, primarily because you get faster charging speeds, which is actually very, very useful when you want to quickly top up and head out somewhere. Plus, the overall battery life is not too far behind when compared to the Redmi Note 9 Pro. So yeah, I mean, when it comes to overall battery performance, I think that the Realme 6 is better than the Redmi Note 9 Pro. But of course, if you're looking at absolute numbers and absolute technical details, then the Redmi Note 9 Pro trumps because it has better battery life compared to the Realme 6 for sure. What do you guys prefer? Like, do you prefer faster charging or longer battery lives? I mean, I would possibly trade off the chunkiness of the Redmi Note 9 Pro for a slimmer battery, but that's just me. Do let me know what you guys think. Now, when it comes to call quality and network performance on 4G, both the phones are equally good. Quite literally, I couldn't tell the two apart. But when it comes to network performance, there is one thing that is additional and advantageous on the Redmi Note 9 Pro is the support for Navic, which is ISRO's new mapping standard. So I mean, it should latch on to Indian satellites quicker, and you should be able to get map data quicker. But I did test out Google Maps on both the phones. I couldn't see any immediate apparent differences. I think we will get to see some more use cases in the future, but the support for Navic is definitely good on the Redmi Note 9 Pro. So that's the end of the video, but now let's talk about pricing. The Realme 6 and the Redmi Note 9 Pro's base variants, which is the 4GB, 64GB variant, are both available for 12,999. But the 6GB, 128GB variant is cheaper on the Realme 6. It is just 14,999 on the Realme 6, whereas on the Redmi Note 9 Pro, it is 15,999. In fact, for 15,999, you can get the 8GB, 128GB of the Realme 6, which is not even available on the Redmi Note 9 Pro. So pricing wise, definitely the Realme 6 has a slight advantage for sure. Now, I am 100% sure of how I want to break, who should pick up the Redmi Note 9 Pro and who should pick up the Realme 6. Now, if you are a gamer and if you are a performance nerd, then the Realme 6 is for you. And if you like high refresh rate displays, then the Realme 6 is definitely for you. But if you want a great design, more battery life, plus better cameras, then the Redmi Note 9 Pro is for you. Now, I'm a camera person, so if you ask me, I would pick the Redmi Note 9 Pro over the Realme 6 because the performance differences are something that I'm not really worried about. But I know for a fact that a lot of you guys prefer gaming on your phones, especially with these mid-rangers. So for them, the Realme 6 is definitely better. So what did you guys think of my full comparison of the Redmi Note 9 Pro against the Realme 6? Do let me